afternoon, guys. I'm starting live Q&A early because we're also going to have a training at 5 p.m. my time, in about a half hour from now, on the 4 steps that help us heal the trauma of discard. So let's get into our questions today. We had some really good ones. Now, guys, remember, if you're new to the group, every Thursday is live Q&A. Okay, so if you're new to Facebook, it's live Q&A. If you are on YouTube and you want to ask a question and get an answer to it, post it below or join us here on Facebook in our community, or you can email me and I will gladly answer it there. All right, so we got 4 questions today that came in. The first one is, how do you turn down someone that wants to spend time with you? I'm assuming in this scenario you don't want to spend time with them, so you say, no, thank you. I don't want to spend time with you right now. Pretty much that simple. It's direct, it's clear, it's simple, and it can feel pretty firm to people. It can feel a little harsh to some, but that's not what we're responsible for. We are, in fact, responsible for our feelings, not theirs. And if we don't want to, it's like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that right now. That's not for me. Maybe a different time. If you really don't want to deal with that person, then just be like, hey, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that, but yeah, thanks for asking. And then move on with your life. Keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it direct. That's how effective communication typically works. It's clear, simple, and direct, and kind. Kindness is honesty, and it's using phrasing that doesn't attack the person or demean them, and it's direct, clear, and simple. Whereas niceness is like, well, maybe later, if you really don't mean later. Or we say yes to something we don't want because we're afraid of hurting their feelings or offending them. That's niceness, and that sends a wrong signal. We're sending a false signal to them about our interests and intentions, and that leads to bigger hurt down the road. So if you don't want to spend time with someone, just tell them up front and move on with your life. Direct, clear, and simple is an easy strategy for communicating what you want, what you need, and what you feel. All right. Second question is do codependents have complex PTSD after narcissistic abuse? Yes, they absolutely do. Complex PTSD is the result of chronic or systematized trauma. So gaslighting over and over and over, crazy making over and over and over. Intermittent reinforcement can cause it. Constantly being threatened with being discarded or thrown away or left. Repeating patterns of being yelled at, screamed at, hit, emotionally neglected, criticized, complex PTSD, boom. So to be blunt, if a therapist says that's not possible, they don't understand PTSD or complex PTSD entirely. So I would recommend you point them towards Pete Walker's work in a book called Complex PTSD. That will help them educate and update their knowledge base on trauma so that they can start tuning into how it actually functions according to current research and science. And there's a couple of modalities that work really well with this. Closure technique does, along with this upcoming nurture process, and of course EMDR, somatic processing, and TRE. EFT is another modality that can work with that, as long as you got a qualified, experienced practitioner behind it. A lot of times people do EFT and they think they can practice on other people and be effective. It takes a little finesse with that tool. All right. So another question, are there kid-friendly educational materials about objectification, emotional abuse, and narcissism? What do you recommend I do or not do? So this is in relationship to a question of, hey, my daughter's father is being abusive towards my daughter. She wants out. How do we deal with this? I'm not familiar with any kid-friendly material on the subject that I can point out to you right now. I definitely recommend therapy. Get her with a therapist if she's not with that already. But what you can do is validate her experience. That's the most important thing children need, is to know that someone believes them, that they're not crazy, that what they're going through matters to someone else, especially another adult, a protective parent, for instance. That would be your role. And you can discuss options and timing about how to make changes in custodial agreement according to whatever your divorce decree is in the state, the laws of the state you're in. So you want to be mindful of that, but validate, validate, validate. Validate, validate, validate. That's what children need to know. They're believed. What they're going through is understood. Let her know that it's abnormal. This is not how normal, healthy people function, and help her discern between this is this person and this is that person, so that her mind can begin to see unhealthy male behavior and healthy male behavior. And she can be able to better discern and pick out healthy male friends and avoid the unhealthy ones, because that's a major factor in this as well. As we tend to choose partners that modeled our opposite parent. A lot of the times I've chosen women in the past that were more avoidant, like my mother, because that's what's normal to us. That's our experience of the opposite sex. If we're heterosexual, now if we have a different attraction, then we may be modeling it from the same sex parent or something. So, but you want to be mindful of that. So she at least can help her brain discern that this is one person and this is the context they come from, and this is a separate person, rather than all men are this way or all women are this way, that kind of thing. That's where I would start, but definitely we can do some research on material. Depending on what her age group is, some of the adult material, like Patricia, what's her name? But the book is Verbal Abuse. It would be a really good read on that, so she can understand what's going on there. But yeah, we'd have to look at some age-appropriate materials there. Okay, that's, the big thing is validate, validate, validate. Question number 4 is, in the supplier-consumer scenario, how does this consumer hold their worth? Well, in the consumer, being the narcissist, the worth is found in the fulfillment from, or the supply. My sense of worth is puffed up, it's inflated by the supply. So they rely on supply to regulate their sense of value and image. Because the only thing that really matters to a narcissistic person is their image. It's how they appear to other people. That's it. That's all they care about. That's why they're very protective about what's said about them. That's why they do not like mistakes and errors. That's why they don't like gossip about them. That's why they tend to control their supply so tightly about what they say, who they talk to, where they're at, who they're with, because they're trying to control the narrative about them through other people. So they're reliant on the supply for their sense of image and value. So if they feel like their image is tarnished, they're going to seek out different supply that validates their victimhood and their justification for being what they are and things like that, because their whole goal is to sustain the image. That's all that matters to a narcissist, because they see themselves as an object, and that object is, how do I appear to the world so I can get more supply? And round that cycle goes. So yeah, the consumer does not actually hold their worth. That's, if they did, they legitimately would never need supply. I mean, the bucket would eventually fill up, but that's not what happens. They're a black hole, and that's why they constantly need new supply. So those are our 4 questions today, guys. I appreciate you showing up. Yeah, that's why our private container was so important to you. Yeah, if she's trying to control her image, she's trying to control perception of other people about who she is, then yeah, you're going to have a real problem there. Because exposure to people who have narcissistic tendencies, it's brutal, because now all collapses, and then they have to face this internalized shame and this deep disgust they have towards themselves. And typically they're just going to lash out and blame everybody else. So that's why they do what they do. So they just don't have the capacity to take ownership, right? Lack of empathy. They don't see that they're actually, they don't understand what love is. They think love is supply, like we think approval is love. Yeah, gotta be careful with that. So, yeah, there we go. So that's this week's live Q&A, guys. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go live in about 20 minutes with our next training on healing from the discard trauma. We're going to talk about the 4 steps that allow us to connect back with ourselves so that we can have, and we can restore our identity, our value, and our connection back in our life and actually heal so we can go on and live our lives. Go be happy, guys. Just like one of my clients today, they found out, they put a offer down on the house and it was received and accepted. It's a big deal for them because they lost a home, they lost a relationship. They went through a lot when that happened and it stung and they didn't know if that was even going to be an option again. And here they are because they stepped back into connection, back into their true identity, back into love, tapped into their brilliance and allowed life to work for them. They took that risk. That's the results my clients get in their lives. It's not just that I feel better. They actually start getting things they want. Relationships, houses, cars, jobs, experiences, whatever it might be. They're able to attain it because it teaches them how to be able to receive it. We can only receive what we're allowing ourselves to be worthy of. So we're the gatekeeper of how much love we receive. We can give all the love away we want, but what we get back is completely determined by our sense of our ability to receive and be open and available. And that's largely determined by our sense of value and our safety being ourselves. So, love you guys. Let me know how you're doing out there. And remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. Comment below what you got out of today's live Q&A. And remember, every Thursday, you can ask questions and get professional mentorship on your situation from life, guys. People pay me thousands of dollars for these kinds of moments. Take advantage of it, okay? So you can make a difference in your world and you can go out there and kick some butt. So you guys have a good night and I will see you in your training here in 15 minutes. Have a good night, guys.